I'm recognizing some people I've done clearings on over the last week. Even though you guys haven't seen me, I've seen you. So you guys, I've been able to pop in. I'm still trying to remember who owns Jerry the cat. We're still visiting Jerry all the time. Somebody, one of my soul guides has a real affinity for one of these cats. And I laughed about it. I'm like, what is it? He's like, well, he just loves me. He loves to play with me. And whenever a lot of times when my guides pop in to do a clearing, the pets are just like, holy shit. And they run too, because they're a bit like, whoa, what is all this? It's like Astral SWAT coming in. But not Jerry. Jerry sees our friend Zach and he goes running to him. He just loves Zach. So whenever we pop into Queensland now, Zach's like, I'm going to go visit Jerry while the crew is working. So I don't know who owns Jerry the cat, but your cat is one of my soul guide's favorite companions to visit. It's quite funny. So one of you are going to be like, why is my cat doing all these weird things and acting like it can see stuff? Well, there might be a galactic that's coming in to visit your cat. I got to figure out which client that was so I can laugh about that with them. Because yes, Jerry is still a big fan. We've been seeing all kinds of interesting things, though. I don't know what it is about Queensland right now, but there are so many people booking clearings in Queensland. And I asked my guides about it. I was like, what is happening in Queensland? Like, seriously, like 1 in 5 of my clearings, we have an entire planet to clear. And yet 1 in 5 of my clearings right now seems to be in Queensland. And I'm like, what is going on in Queensland? And the guide said it's very dark. It needs to be cleared. I went and checked on, yes, I am, Brittany, darling. I'm on both. So I asked, what's going on? Like, can we check outside? And the guides were like, oh, yeah, we have to check outside every time we come here. And I said, why? And they were like, because there's like hundreds of earthbounds outside. Yes, Australia was like a prison colony. There's a lot that goes on in Australia. For the record, we're not just talking about the colonization of Australia being the problem. There's a lot of things that have happened. Australia is very old. And there are parts of it that even survived the floods. There are parts of many countries that survived the floods. And I'm talking like 12,600 years ago. And so a lot of us are kind of finding weird things sometimes when we go in, like Appalachia, for example. If anybody lives in Appalachia, there's some weird shit that climbs, that's in the woods or underground, and just there's areas where you see the most concentrations of weird paranormal activity. And that's why, because there are pockets that survive the floods and there are beings that are still in out of phase, so to speak, but every once in a while we can see them, because when you match frequency, you can see them. Daniel Jackson knows what I'm talking about, don't you, Daniel Jackson? So the thing about these beings is that most of the time they're generally harmless. In fact, you don't even see them. But every once in a while, things can the veil can get very thin, or these beings can come wandering in from certain areas they wouldn't normally be found. And then you will find people having paranormal activity that they're like, what is happening? I have had an influx of new followers thanks to the person who's making my reels. She's doing an amazing job, by the way. Thank you, Ella, for doing such a great job in my reels. So I've been posting some stuff recently that I wouldn't normally, clips and things. So I've had a lot of clients that find me. I had one client that found me who's been harassed by dark entities for quite some time now. This was a military veteran. And I was very glad that he found me when he did, because he was really getting picked on. Like, ever see like a pile like in football or rugby when somebody jumps on the ball and then like 10 people pile on top of that person because they're like, you know what I mean? It was like that. That's what that military guy looked like when we checked him. Just beasties piled on top of beasties on top of beasties. And I'm like, what is happening here? So he brought all this stuff back with him, but then he picked up more as well from the VA hospital, because VA hospitals are apparently a complete cesspit for entity attachments. This is why a lot of people will feel fine, then they'll go to the VA hospital for a checkup, and then they'll pick up something, and the next thing you know, they've got suicidal ideation and they don't know why. So this is why many people in the military reach out to me and they're like, I have horrible nightmares. I don't know why. They have pain all over their body, which some of them is explanatory, but some of them it is not. They just like, I didn't have an injury here. So why do I have excruciating pain here? So a lot of them are concerned that it's that related, getting the jab. And some of it is because many of them can be used as guinea pigs, unfortunately. But this gentleman, I was not expecting him to recover as quickly as he did. In fact, he messaged me within an hour going, holy shit. He's like, what is happening? He goes, the burning sensation all over my body is gone. The thoughts of self-harm are gone. All these horrible things, these layers of suffering that he was feeling were gone within an hour. And I told him it would take 7 days. I'm like, just be aware, like you had so much shit on you. This was a major like astral surgery that we had to do today to get rid of all these implants and flush your system and all that. So I'm like, don't expect to feel better for at least a few days. And the guy messaged me with an hour back and going, holy shit, I feel amazing. He's like, but I can't stop crying and I can't stop laughing. And when he said that, I was like, oh my God, yes. Like that means he's releasing. If you can't stop crying, if you can't stop laughing, you're, releasing stuff. The burning sensation on his skin was gone and all these things. And it really made me so happy. When we see these things happening, honestly, I do expect it to have some kind of, a recovery period. But when it happens that instantaneously, you can just tell how heavy those attachments were and how much damage they were actually doing. How do you stop people from visiting you in the astral? If you see someone in your dreams, it's a very good question. So there's lots of tricks that you can do, especially just before bed. So you can do things before bed, before you even go to sleep, to set your intention that you will not be bothered. One of the important things that you can do is call in your gatekeeper. This is your protector soul guide. This is your bouncer, as we call them. So you ask your gatekeeper to push back any entities or people, any looky-loos that you would prefer to not be looking. So you ask your gatekeeper, you say, hey, please make sure that you're keeping them away. I do not want anything or anyone that is not of the highest of light to come into my space. So first of all, that's the most important thing. Every night, this has to be done. Ask your gatekeeper. If you are an astral traveler like myself, I astral travel almost every single night. How do I know? Well, if you ever feel that falling sensation when you're just falling asleep, that is a sign that you are lifting out of body. So if you ever feel that falling sensation, you are an astral traveler. And there's going to be a lot of people who are able to perceive things during their dream state at a lot more, it's going to be a lot more vivid, a lot more controllable. Another thing you can do is before bed, you do your psychic protection. So you visualize golden light around yourself. So if you want to protect yourself while you're dreaming, you want to visualize some golden light around yourself. You can visualize suits of armor. You can visualize, how they have that one-way glass in like police departments, you can see in, but you can't see out, that kind of thing. You can do a cube of one-way glass like that. Or you can do a mirrored bubble. So you put yourself inside a mirrored bubble. You see that mirror shine on the outside of your bubble. And you set the intention to bounce everybody that's trying to peer inside back. The only thing that limits you in the astral is your imagination, your creativity. So the more clever you get, it works. It all works. But if you don't set any intention, your subconscious is going to be controlling the show. And that's where you get into trouble. Because your subconscious does not have good discernment. Your subconscious actually has hardly any discernment whatsoever. You're kind of like a little kid, being like, hey, do you want to come in the van with the candy? No. Your subconscious is going to be like, yeah, sure, why not? Don't get in the astral van, so to speak. It is very easy to do so, especially if your subconscious is naive, which 99% of us have a very naive subconscious. So you have to actually set the intention before bed as well that you will not make any agreements. You will not sign any contracts. You tell your higher self. Say, before I go in, it's kind of like you know better than that. You've got this intuition that tells you this is not a good thing. Sometimes people can listen to that while they're dreaming. Other times they don't even have that. In fact, there's a lot of people that end up with dark contracts without even being aware of it. Can you do clearings on someone if you're not face to face? Yes. So in fact, we aren't allowed to do them that way to that degree. I mean, yeah, we can ask our guys to clear you. If I'm just walking down the road, sometimes I'll see somebody and I'll be like, that person has beasties. Get them, guys, get them. Like, that's kind of how I am. I saw somebody at the beach the other day and I took one look at this girl and I'm like, she's got grays. I know it. I know for a fact. Like, literally, it took me less than 1/10 of a second. I looked at this one girl and I'm like, grays. Immediately, there's grays on her. They're around her. I can feel it. Literally, I can feel it. I can feel the gray cords. I can feel the gray attachments. And I can literally feel the residual energy. I may not be able to see them, but I can absolutely feel them. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I went to my friend who was a medium that I was visiting. And I said, do you see that girl over there swimming? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, can you ask the guides to check her? And she's like, yeah, hold on. She closed her eyes. She sends the guides in to have a look. And sure enough, there were grays all over her. I'm like, I knew it. I told you there were grays. You can feel their energy. You really can. It's shocking, to be honest. So there is something very exciting that I wanted to tell you guys about today. So every couple months when I go to visit Adriana, this was now my 3rd visit to Grenada. For those who are new to my page, because I've had 5,000 new followers over the last couple days, so I'll just have to explain myself a little extra over the next few weeks. So I have a medium that I work with. Her name is Adriana. She is a phenomenal Akashic Records reader. She is a fellow Pleiadian like me, even though we come from different Pleiadian lineages. We have been friends for over 12,000 years. It's a long story as to how we met. We were involved together with the Orion Wars. And then in this lifetime, we were both reunited, and it's a long story. But when you find somebody that you've known that long, it creates a bond that you just can't really explain. And so whenever I get an opportunity to have a little time off, I just go and visit her. She and I are very close friends now, and we do SRT together. So it's just lovely to be able to visit a friend who understands you and is going through many of the same things, especially in regards to starseed stuff, right? Because starseeds, not a lot of people understand us. So if you even have one friend, if you have even one friend who truly understands you as a fellow starseed or has an understanding to where you can talk about literally anything, consider yourself extremely blessed. So that is what she is to me. And so I visit her, and every time I visit her, we both have some serious upgrades. We have some very interesting things that happen for us. And over the last week, ever since I showed up, I started feeling weird. Like, I started feeling things in my third eye. I started feeling things with my ear. In fact, as I'm sitting there working, I'm typing, it feels like somebody is jiggling my eyeball inside my head. I'm like, what is happening? Like, it literally feels like somebody's going, like moving my eyeball in my head. And I'm like, what is happening? Why are my eyeballs jiggling inside my head? And they're like, oh, they're working on something for you. And I was like, what are they working on? They said they're improving your sight. And I was like, okay, I don't mind. It feels really weird if they're going to improve my sight like this. Okay, that's very cool. I appreciate them working on my sight. So I was wondering why, though. I'm like, what is happening? Adriana, she works with a specific, many of you guys already know this, but Zach is her Salation Pleiadian soul guide that I speak to all the time. And Zach and I have become very good friends. And I recognize Zach's voice. I know his voice like immediately. And that's another good thing because, it's another way of recognizing imposters, or somebody who's trying to sneak in and pretend to be him. So when this happened the other day, I heard a different voice come through, and the voice had changed. It was not Zach. And so I validated that they were from the highest of light. And I'm like, who is this? She channeled Archangel Metatron. It was Metatron that came through. So I started conversing with Metatron, having a conversation. It's a long story, but we have done some pretty major clearings over the last few weeks. I don't know if anybody watched our tsunami clearing the other day. Last week, we did a Lost Soul rescue with all of us. There was the entire Avengers crew. All of my, pretty much most of the mediums in our academy were there. And it was a profound clearing. I mean, we crossed over billions of souls. And people say billions, like, yeah, literally billions. Why? Because it wasn't just human souls we were helping. There were fish, there were birds, there were animals, there were all kinds of things. And in fact, we even started going through the layers, releasing the souls that were stuck in the layers, the time layers. And we even found people that had been stuck since Atlantean like times. There were wars that happened here pre-Atlantean times, and we found people that died there. We even found a ship. And I could see the ship in my head. It was incredible. Like I literally, like, the guides start, as I said, they've been working on me, helping me to see more clearly. And holy shit, meditation is really fun right now because I can see all kinds of things. In fact, I can start to understand why the mediums go down rabbit holes the way they do. Because it used to be, for me, meditation used to be like being in an echo chamber. You know, there was like nothing going on. Now when I meditate, now that all these things are coming online, it's like watching a movie in my head. I can literally see it. Or if you remember those old cameras, you know, those old cameras you used to have back in the day where you'd be like, and you'd be like going through black and white pictures. I see that in my head. When they were flooding my head with all that Tartarian stuff that I was talking about on my post, that's how I was seeing it. Like, it was like they were going through all these like black and white images of castles in my head. It was really cool. I had a wonderful conversation with Metatron, which we did post a bit of the conversation in the Patreon. So if you guys are interested in watching that, thank you for supporting our group and the work that we do. So if you're interested in hearing that message from Metatron, to summarize, he basically explained, like, we are... So they've basically been shielding me this whole time. He explained that over the last 2 years, since I started this Facebook page and started this YouTube channel, they said that they have been kind of shielding me from too much unwanted attention. Not just from beasties, not just from big galactic entities and freaky shit that we don't want to know that we exist, but also from too much attention from other humans. That was weird. Something literally just fell and I caught it anyway. See, that's how my ninja skills. Something just made something fall. One of my crystals just fell off of my thing and I still caught it. Ah, 'cause I'm a ninja. That was really weird. Seriously, it fell right off the side and I caught it midair. See? I got those video game reflexes. So anyway, I asked the guides, I'm like, divine shielding, what are they talking about? And they explained that there are a lot of changes and lots of attention that is going to be coming this way. And they said, you know, we've been protecting you from too much attention, but we're going to stop doing that now. And I was like, what do you mean you're going to stop? And they're like, we're going to open the dam, so to speak, a little bit. And I was like, opening the dam. And they said, yeah, we're going to bring some new people in. You're going to see an influx of new clients and new followers and things, because there's people that need your work. There's people that need your help. So we're going to put you on the radar. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I have gained 8,000 followers in less than 4 days. I've gained 3,000 overnight last night alone. They're not kidding. When they said opening the floodgates, and I was like, how much are we opening? They said a little bit. And I was like, okay, a little doesn't sound bad. Because they said something to me. They're like, I got over 50 bookings in one day. Like within about 36 hours, I got 50 bookings. And I was like, holy shit. What am I going to do? And there's like, you're going to build a website and you're going to get your students up and running very, very soon. And I was like, that's a good plan. They're like, you have to do this, Lara, because you can't do this on your own. In fact, they said, we sent you 50 bookings overnight. And we were to send you 500 bookings overnight. And I was like, holy shit. Okay. So right now I have my crew working overtime to help me build this website. I have 188 pending bookings this morning. I checked. 188 pending bookings. I'm still only 3 weeks booked out. I have no idea. I'm doubling up right now. Yesterday, I did like 7 hours worth of clearings. I'm not even kidding. And I made Thanksgiving dinner. For the record, I'm a badass when it comes to time, because holy cow, the fact that I did like 7 hours worth of clearings yesterday, as well as making a big Thanksgiving dinner for my family. Yeah. Cleanup is another story. My kitchen is a disaster. So I have to work on that today. But my point is, yes, we are going to be seeing a major, major influx of people coming for help. So we are going to be opening a website in the next couple days. That website is going to be for Astara bookings. So that way you guys will be able to book an SRT with our academy. We are trying to do away with the emergency stuff. We don't like having to charge an emergency fee. And I hate to say it, but a lot of the people that are booking emergencies with me are literally just don't want to wait. Some of them are sincere emergencies. And if people message me and they say, look, I can't afford the emergency fee, but I literally feel like I'm going to die. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming. Like, I won't make you wait, 3 weeks if you feel like you're going to die. But you need to message me and let me know this. There was a client who did not speak up and we got in there just in the nick of time. Like, literally, his silver cord was almost... It was like one thread left of his silver cord. So when we tuned in, the guides were like, oh my God. And then the first thing they did was anchor that silver cord. And I said, how bad is it? And they said, he could have died in his sleep. That's how bad it was. And I was like, holy fuck. That was somebody who didn't speak up. They didn't let us know how bad of an emergency it was. So please, if you feel that you are in that situation and you can't afford the emergency fee, please do let us know. But just be in mind, like, I do have 190 people who are, it's not even just the people, that's just the number of bookings I have. Some of you guys have booked family clearings and a whole lot of stuff. Just being mindful that we do absolutely need people. In fact, this is why we're doing training. Candace says, I want to join your team. Do you train? Yes. In fact, we have training starting Friday. We do training twice a year. So every 6 months. It takes us about 6 months to train our people to the point of giving them certification. This is no joke. Like, we are literally on the front lines of a holy war. And I've had to express this to people when they are like, oh, I could do this. And I'm like, are you sure? Have you looked into what we deal with yet? Have you seen what we kind of have to put up with? Like, just be aware. Like, it's very much similar to, dealing with an astral mafia. I'm kind of an astral prosecutor. So that's, literally there are beings that will come in and try and harass you because they don't like you doing this work. They don't want you to do this work. So some of our people have been getting attacked just because they know they're going to be coming to class on Friday. So just be aware, there's a lot of people that have been in training for this their whole lives. I'm one of those people. I've been attacked by entities. I've been dealing with psychic attacks since I was a teenager. And I had 4 suicide attempts. They tried to snuff me out. They tried to convince me to self-harm so I wouldn't be doing this work in the future. They failed. And now that I know who I am, now that I remember what I signed up for, now that I'm empowered because I know how to deal with these entities, it's like that song. They can't touch this. Like, they can't stop me now. They tried. They got me when I was a teenager because they didn't know that, whether or not I'd be following this path. And I certainly did. My guides must be exhausted. If you've managed to stay on your path, you give yourself a pat on the back, but also give one to your team. Because your team managed to get you out of we're running the gauntlet to get to this point. So my training has been intense my whole life, dealing with psychic attacks, dealing with entities, dealing with all kinds of shit in the astral, the nightmares I used to have, like the harassment that I had, the psychic attacks. I had blinding headaches as a kid. Blinding headaches to the point where my parents took me to a doctor to get me, I got through CAT scans, you name it. Nobody could find anything wrong with me. Blinding headaches. Do you know what causes blinding headaches? Psychic attacks. They were trying to destroy my third eye. And they did for a little while. They shut down my gifts. That's what they do. A lot of people are like, how come my third eye was completely blocked? Because they did that on purpose. They don't want you to have your gifts. One person, right? I checked her not too long ago. She's like, I haven't been able to connect with my guides. I get really bad headaches. I feel really ungrounded. And I'm like, yeah, I know what all that means. I went in there. We've been calling it like an iron yarmulke, but that's really what it looks like. They put plates on your head, iron plates on your head to block your connection to source. And some of them are big, like they come down like a magneto helmet and they block your third eye as well. So all this is being blocked and all this is being blocked. Do you know what I found on somebody the other day? Carolyn and I, we have a laugh while we're doing clearings, don't we, Carolyn? We never know what we're going to find. So we were just doing clearings, and all of a sudden we find somebody with a pirate patch over their third eye. It looked like a metal pirate patch. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, seriously, I could see it in my mind's eye. And I'm like, am I think I'm seeing? She's like, yeah, it looks like a pirate patch. Like, holy shit. Clever little bastards. That's just what they do, though. They block. It's childish. They block your third eye because they don't want you to see. They're blocking your intuition. They're blocking your connection to your team. They're blocking your everything by doing that. So a lot of people are like, I don't know what happened to my gifts. Well, maybe your gifts are being blocked intentionally. So this is what happened to me for a long time. They literally tried to destroy my third eye. And so my gifts, my mediumship, it didn't help that I was traumatized either, because I would see some shit in my house and I would be like, oh my God, I can't see. I don't want to see. And I turned it off doing that. I got too scared. And now here I am going, come on, I want to see. I want to see. Show me everything. So it's funny how much things can change when you're coming from an empowered mindset, from an empowered standpoint. Because if you're not empowered, if you're going to be fearful of your gift, then they're going to use it against you. Your gift no longer is a gift. It becomes a curse. People who are schizophrenic, for example, you know how many times I've found clients who have been gifted for many lifetimes. This often happens. Like, let's say, for example, we have a gifted medium. One of the most common things we find is a witch wound. A very gifted medium, in most cases, especially if you're a female, you're going to have a witch wound. 9 times out of 10. Why? Because at that point, you were persecuted. Your gifts made you a target back in the day. And instead of being able to use those gifts for good, many of those people were actually sabotaged. You know, they were persecuted for having those gifts, just for being gifted. And so that creates this fear of your gift. This creates this aura of, oh my God, I can't be myself. It's not safe to be me. And then often there's another lifetime, which we call a dark magic life. So this can happen before or after the witch wound, depending on all kinds of different factors. So we have a dark magic life where a lot of people who especially were persecuted, they're like, okay, well, you're going to portray me as a bad guy. Watch, I'll show you a bad guy. There's a lot of people that were like, oh, you want to deem me a witch? Well, fine. I'm coming back as a dark witch then. You made me this way. So that's fine. And there's a lot of women who come back as dark witches, who come back to do dark magic. And that also creates all bonds and connections to entities and dark contracts and all kinds of things that bleed into your next lifetimes. So then you also find a lot of women who were, not just women, my apologies, there's a lot of people who were persecuted during the Victorian era as well. And to be honest, the Victorian era, we are starting to find, and I think Carolyn would probably agree with me on this, the Victorian era mental health abuses were worse than the witches that were being burned alive in many cases. So people are like, how is that possible? How could it be worse to be somebody with mental health disorders in the Victorian era than actually being burned as a witch? How could that be worse? Well, for the record, people that were burned as a witch, many of them spent a year in prison. Many of them were starved for a year. Many of them were raped and beaten and horrifically treated in public, right? That creates layers of trauma. I mean, your trauma from the abuse, your trauma from the sexual assault, your trauma from the public, violence and the public spitting on you and chanting horrible things at you. That creates layers and layers of mental anguish. We'll put it that way, right? But why does it get worse? Well, many of them only suffered for a year. Many of them suffered for shorter periods than a year. Some of them were literally dragged out of their homes and murdered in the streets. Yeah, but that's not prolonged, lifetime long suffering. There are people that were born in the Victorian era who were abused as children, who were abducted by Greys, who had gifts to be able to see dark entities, reptilians, demonics, you name it. They could see what was around them. And they were gaslighted their entire life. They were told they were crazy their entire life. And the ones that couldn't control that, the ones who weren't able to, I mean, there were people who were literally trapped in their bodies back then, who couldn't express themselves, who couldn't even speak up at all about what they were dealing with back then. And so there are people who were literally tortured their entire life. We're talking decades. And not only that, but nobody really understood what they were dealing with. So you weren't just locked in a padded cell. Back then, they would actually take you outside. They would chain you up, and they would allow members of the public to come and harass you publicly. They would come up, they would laugh at you, they would spit at you, they would throw things at you. They would gawk at you and say horrible things, and all of that would be taken internally. And then after that, you'd be taken back to your room at the end of the day, and you'd be sexually assaulted by the staff. You'd be denied food. You'd be left in dirty clothing. You would literally be starved in many cases. And that's stuff that happens. I mean, this is decades and decades and decades of trauma we're talking about, not just 1 year. So imagine being a client who has come to us for a clearing and we find all 3 in your past life resonances. We find that quite often. We have literally found someone just the other day who had a triggered witch wound and they had Victorian era mental health abuses. And you know what's crazy is that this one person had actually been to hell. They believed so much that hell was real because of the dark entities that they saw. They didn't even get respite in death. They went to a hell realm after. They believed so much that they were being punished, that they deserved the punishment, and they knew for a fact that entities exist because they could see them. So they believed that's all they knew. So they sent themselves to the dark side for death. That if you truly believe that you deserve to go to hell, you can create that version of hell for yourself in the afterlife. This is what happened to a client the other day. We literally found somebody that was like this. And you know what his mom said in his submission form? He's too lazy and doesn't want to go get a job. He's got mental health stuff, yeah, but he could be working. He could go and get a job. He's not trying hard enough. Why isn't he trying hard enough? Where's the blockages coming from? I don't know. Maybe it's 4 lifetimes of heinous torture. Holy shit. All of his thought forms, all of this poor guy's thought forms were related to self-harm, self-doubt, self-deprecation, self-hatred, self-this, self-that, self-everything. Just beating himself up constantly. Shame, doubt, guilt, you name it. This poor guy has been a victim for at least 4 to 5 lifetimes. Victim of horrible, horrible, horrific shit. And they're trying to sell him, oh, get a job, get off your ass. So I spent an extra hour writing up all this in the report. I don't know if it helps. I don't know if people even, who knows? People probably think I'm fucking nuts. I don't know. But this is what we find. And people wonder why they're dealing with trauma. They're wondering why they have PTSD from things they don't even understand. Anyway, this is the kind of shit we find when we do clearings. And it's shocking how many of you are functioning. How you stay functioning with this much trauma from multiple lifetimes. How you stay functioning with your gift being used as a curse against you. You are stronger than you will ever know. So I had to ban over 200 people this morning from my Facebook page because one of my reels went nuts. If you guys saw my reptilian reel yesterday, I had a lot of people being very, very cruel in the comments underneath it. And every single one of those fuckers got banned. Do you know why I am so open about talking about these things? Why I don't give a rat's ass if you don't believe me. I really don't give a flying fuck who believes me or not. And the reason for that is because how many times was that gentleman gaslighted? How many times was he told, no, you're not seeing what you're seeing. That's not real. How many times people are gaslighted? How many times people are lied to because some fucking muggle doesn't know what they're talking about? You will not get that from me. I will tell you straight. I will always tell each and every single one of you straight. They are absolutely real. And I don't care who believes me or not. You have to see them to believe it. You have to experience a psychic attack to truly understand. When it feels like something is on your head and it's crushing your skull, and you can literally feel like something is pushing down on your skull that you can't see, and you're going to tell me that's not real just because you can't see it? I can feel it. Don't tell me what's real. So this is why I have to be honest. This allows other people to be vindicated, to be validated in understanding that they're not making it up. That gentleman was not making it up in the Victorian era. He wasn't making it up when he was persecuted during the Inquisition, and he certainly isn't fucking making it up now. That's why I'm honest. Because there's so many people who deserve to hear that honesty, and they're being gaslighted enough. Honestly, like, we have our work cut out for us, and this is part of what Metatron was talking about. This was part of the clip that he mentioned. He basically explained, like, the shift is just getting warmed up. We're just getting started. We may be about 60% through the shift, but what we feel, the things that have been happening, I mean, the amount of things that have happened to me over just the past week alone, I don't have enough time to tell you guys all about it. I wish I did. I could talk to you guys more about it on Astara in a few minutes, but over the past week, I've had so much going on in terms of upgrades and visitors. And for example, right? Like, I'm sitting on the beach enjoying myself, and I feel this, I don't know what it is. The energy of the entire space changed around Adriana and I were sitting in the beach. Aiden's playing in the surf. It was a beautiful day. And all of a sudden, this was Thanksgiving Day. And all of a sudden, I have this overwhelming smell of flowers. Like, it was like the entire area just got pumped full of perfume. And it smelled like roses, honeysuckle, and something else that I can't even put into words. Maybe like, I don't know. I have no idea. To be honest, like, I've never smelled anything like it. It was like the best perfume. If you could bottle that, it would be the world's most famous perfume. I'm telling you. Because I both, like, Adriana and I both looked at each other and we're like, what is that? What's happening? Who is this? Who's here? What is this? Why do we smell this? And we're like, who is that? And then all of a sudden I see somebody in my head, and I immediately knew who it was. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, who is that? It was Shakti. It was Lord Shiva's wife. Shakti came in to visit us. And I was like, how come Shakti's here? And they're like, she's just giving you a blessing. She's just happy to see what you're doing, and she just came in to give you a blessing. And I was like, oh, yeah. Thank you, Shakti. This is beautiful. I really appreciate it. And as soon as she said that, I got head and toe chills, like literally my whole body. And I was like, oh my God. Like, whoa, that was amazing. It felt so good. I was like, wow, what a beautiful visit. So then I'm like, okay, this is really, like, I just felt tingles and goosebumps all over. And I'm like, this is incredible. Thank you so much for the blessing, you know? And then a couple hours later, like not even an hour later, I start seeing somebody in my head, and I'm like, I literally stopped. We were eating lunch, and I was about to put food in my mouth, and I was like, who's here? She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, can you validate something? Who is here? Is he standing behind me? And she's like, there's a lot of people here. You're going to have to be more specific. And I'm like, I can see Aaron. I can see the guide that pulled me out of body 13 years ago, my Tegetten guide. And she's like, yeah, he's standing right behind you. He's standing to your right. And I was like, oh my God, I can see him. I almost started crying at lunch. And I was like, what are you doing here? I was like, I haven't seen you in 13. Where have you been? That was my answer. Like, where have you been? Because I've been jokingly calling it like my Pleiadian one night stand. They pulled me out of body 13 years ago, and I haven't heard from them since. And I'm like, where have you been? So I was like, this is incredible. What are you guys doing here? And they wouldn't tell me. They're like, they were very excited. They're very happy about something happening. And I'm like, do tell. Like, what's happening? And the guys are like, not telling you nothing. And I'm like, I can feel that I've gotten upgrades. Like, I know for a fact that my mediumship and my clairs have at least doubled, maybe even tripled over the past week. I am not even kidding. This is why when I said earlier, like, meditation is more fun now, It really is. It's no longer an echo chamber. If I meditate, if I even say somebody's name, I think they're getting me prepared to be an SRT medium. Pretty sure that's what's happening here. Because I can see what the mediums see now. In fact, I can even find things and I'm like, hey, did you check the sky portal? And they're like, oh yeah, there it is. Yep, sky portal. I can see it too. So I can see very, very clearly. In fact, I mean, there's even things that I'm surprised that I'm even able to do now. I'm like, what is even happening here? And they're like, Metatron upgraded you. I even got new protection. Metatron gave me a suit the other day. And I was like, really? That's a long story, but there are upgrades. There's certain upgrades that you can get doing this work because we're doing very important work. In fact, he explained, like, you need upgrades because he said you're even waking up ancient enemies. And I was like, well, that's what I do. That's normal for me. What can I say? Waking up old ancient enemies. But they're like, just be aware, like, the more good you do, the more you're being noticed. The more you're going to need extra protection. And I was like, okay. So that's why my squad is around. They're like, they're part of it. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. And so I'm like, well, what's up with the suit? And so it's a long story. And it's funny, too, because I didn't even tell Bradley I got the suit. I'm like, Bradley, well, later on that day after I got the suit, I was chatting with Bradley and I'm like, check my etheric. Look at my etheric field. What do you see? And he's like, okay, all right, hold on. Whoa. It's like, what do you see? What do you see? And he's like, well, first of all, I can see your double etheric field. And I'm like, yeah, that was a gift. That I have a double field. And the reason I have a double field is I have some technology that was put there by the Arcturians. Many thanks to my friend Constantine for that. So I have a double aura, which is already extra protection anyway. So he sees the double aura. He moves in through the double aura, and then he can see my etheric field, like my close etheric field. And he's like, I'm just seeing colors and geometric shapes and patterns. And he's like, what am I even seeing? I'm like, it looks like a kaleidoscope, right? And he's like, yeah, it does. Like all these like geometric patterns and colors, and it's moving and shifting. And I'm like, that's my new suit. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, that's the suit that I got from Metatron. And he's like, no way. So I asked what it does. And it doesn't just protect me in 3D. It doesn't just protect my physical body. It protects the parts of me that are in 4D, the parts of me that are in 5D, and all these other frequencies. Humans are multidimensional. Why do you think entities mess with us? They're not messing with your 3D version. They're messing with your multidimensional self. They're messing with your etheric field, all of that. That's your multidimensional self, right? So the extra protection fits around all of that. So on top of that, they said that this new suit protects other versions of me that exist in alternate realities. So I was like, holy shit, does that mean Zoran and like Catherine and Jenna and all these other versions of me that happen in alternate realities, they're getting the suit too? And they're like, yes, they are. And I was like, sweet. And Aiden is in the room while we're having this conversation. Aiden's like, I want a suit. So for those who don't know, that's my 9-year-old. My 9-year-old's like, well, I want a suit. So Metatron's like, he can have one too. And we're like, sweet. So Aiden's like, okay, I'm going to have one. So Aiden sees it and he's like, okay, this is how I activate it. And Aiden goes, boop, like he's got a button on his head. And in Aiden's mind, he can see it go. Like you hit the button and then the whole thing like unfolds. So to visualize it, it kind of, you ever see like the Iron Man suit that goes up into space? You know that Iron Man suit, like the really cool one? That's what it looks like to me. So Bradley sees all this and he's like, man, I want one of these suits. And I'm like, just ask. If you don't ask, you don't get, right? So Bradley was like, all right, I want one. So we called in Metatron, and sure enough, Bradley's like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I can feel his energy. He's definitely here. And I said, well, talk to him. Ask him. If you don't ask, you don't get, right? So he's like, okay. So he asked, and he's like, oh. He's like, whoa. And I'm like, what are you feeling? And he's like, how when you put your arms up, like as a kid, and then somebody puts like your pajamas on and they're really soft and silky and they just form fit you and it slides down over your whole body. He's like, it felt like that. But then it felt like somebody like took a string and it just goes like this, and he goes like it form fit perfectly to me. And he's like, oh my God, it feels so amazing. And I was like, yes. So Carolyn did the same thing. Carolyn asked for a suit. She's got one. We all have suits now. So they told us that if you feel you want one, if you feel a connection to all of this, and I'm not making this shit up, if you can feel my truth in this, go ahead, call him in, ask him. I've learned a lot. In fact, we will be talking about this later on when I have a little bit more time. I have learned a lot about angelics over the past week, especially archangels. Some very interesting new developments in return. And because there's so much light coming in, and every clearing that we do, in fact, the guides have said this, every single clearing we do creates ripple effects. In fact, Yeshua was explaining, Yeshua put this beautiful analogy in my head of, I saw somebody skipping rocks on a lake, right? Where you just skip rocks. But I saw like the rock, you focus on the rock, right? You see the rock jump 3-4 times and then it goes into the water. And then people are like, oh, that was a good one, right? In my analogy, they showed me people just focus on the rock jumping. They don't notice the ripples that go all the way across the lake. And they explained to us that the ripples that we are making here on Earth, the reason why we have the attention of Metatron and many others right now is because our ripples have left Earth. Our ripples are going across the universe right now. In fact, they've even said, like, you have no idea how much you are even affecting other planets. And I'm like, well, if I'm pissing off the Federation, then that means I'm doing a good job. I'm sorry, I have a bone to pick with the Federation. So if that means I'm creating ripples in the Federation, fuck yeah. That's what I'm hoping. They're like the zookeepers of our planet. I'm not a fan. So I honestly, I hope I am creating ripples across all kinds of exciting and interesting things. So this is why the guides are saying, like, we have a lot more attention on us right now. And that's why we've been noticed by these very important, very powerful beings. And people don't really understand this for that point. Like, just to show you one example of the thing they taught me, right? Because I asked them, I'm like, we know a lot about certain galactic angelic types, right? Like, we hear a lot about Archangel Michael. We talk about Archangel Raphael. We're talking about Archangel Shamuel because he's been helping us a great deal. He's even watching us right now. I can literally feel his presence. Hello, Shamuel. Love you. I can literally, as I'm talking about it, I know they're both here right now. I can literally feel them. So they're listening right now. This is why it's important. If you say it out loud, please give me a suit, Metatron. He might hear you because I can literally feel his presence right now as I'm talking about him. I probably name dropped him too much and now I've got his attention. So anyway, when it comes to these beings, they explained like there are different genetic branches to a degree. See, Bridget's getting the shivers. See, if you're getting chills, there's your validation. It's working. Because like I said, Bradley got the chills. I got the chills. When we got the suit, we got chills. So if you're feeling it, aha. Janet's confirming this. Thank you, my love. Yes, I thought so. No might about it. He will and does hear. Yes, he is. He's listening right now. Thank you, Janet. One of the things they told me, they're like, most humans are only focused on one branch of angelics, right? Only one branch. And that main branch that they focus on is the EL branch. The beings that end in EL, Michael, Shamuel, Raphael, Ariel, all of these angelics end in EL, right? So if you have EL at the end of the name, then they are from a specific branch of angelic beings. And if you've noticed, there are other angelics that don't end in that. And that's why some people are like, well, he doesn't count. Metatron doesn't count because his name doesn't end in EL. Well, I asked, I'm like, why doesn't your name end in EL? What is that? What's going on here? Right? And I also had a very interesting thought, which, because I was outside just hanging out, meditating. And I had this thought come to me, right? Because if we talk about Metatron, it ends in ON. The thought I had while I was outside was Metatron, like putting an emphasis on the ON. And I was like, okay. And then I said Sandalphon. Sandalphon is supposedly Metatron's brother. See, lots of people are crying. It's because you're releasing. Good, good. Let it out. It's the angelics. You guys are feeling the angelic energy coming in today. It's very strong. I'm telling you, they've been hanging out with me all week. So, so Sandal Fawn, he made emphasis on that. So for those of you who have been following me for 2 years now, I had a third name pop into my head, Evanon. And I was like, holy shit. When they said Evanon like that, made an emphasis on the O-N, I was like, boom. Like literally, I felt like my brain popped. Like I had all of this understanding and downloads, and I was like, holy shit. I just understood immediately what the O-Ns are. I just knew immediately. So the EL branch is the angelics who are more focused on healing and helping individuals, right? They're the ones that come in when we need them. Like we need a miracle, right? Call it an angelic. And I had one myself literally yesterday. I'll tell you guys before I go, I'll tell you about the miracle I had yesterday. Miracles do happen, and I had a miracle save 3 of my fingers yesterday. So anyway, just really quick. So I asked about the ON in my head, trying to understand this. And they said, well, instead of the EL branch, which is there to help individuals who are here coming down to earth to help people like that, you have another branch that is more the galactic branch. And this galactic branch is there to help like whole planetary systems. They're the big guys, right? They're the ones that are helping whole planets. They're very much involved in all of this. And so as I'm talking to Metatron about all this, we actually got it on recording, and then he was talking about it. He goes, and Daniel, thank you to Daniel for pointing this out when I shared the recording in class. Daniel says, did you hear what he said? And I said, what? He goes, our team is much bigger than last time. And I was like, oh, you mean last time when we lost? You mean last time when they were talking about during the Orion Wars and the shit at the fan, and then we had all this flood that happened? They're saying that this time, after, that time we lost the war. But this time we have more backup, more support than ever before, and more guides coming in. They're like, we're not going to lose this time. We're guaranteeing we will not lose the war this time. But the reason for that is because we have people who are boots on the ground like you who are doing this work, who are calling us in. It's almost like scouts. We're scouting out where the enemy is, and then we call in the heavy artillery, right? So they may not know. There's so much darkness on this planet. They don't know. So they need us to anchor their high frequency and to be able to come in and be like, yeah, get them. They're over there. And that's what we do. We call them in, and they come in and they fuck shit up. Yes. Who is the war against? All sorts of different dark beings. There's Maître Greys, reptilians, archons, you name it. There are some very, very old world beings that have a vested interest in keeping this planet full of darkness. So that's what we do. We bring in the light, so to speak. Every single one of you, if you are listening to me right now, we are literally here to hold the light. That is why we're here. We are holding high frequency energy, so that way we are basically we're holding a candle in the darkness right now. That candle is going to get bigger and brighter, and there's going to be more people coming in and bringing their candles into the darkness. But that is what we're doing. We are literally holding back the darkness by holding a candle. And so that is a very tough job. It is not easy. And that's why so many of us get psychic attacks. That's why so many things happen to kind of throw us off our path. And that's why miracles can happen. So yesterday, for those of you who don't know, my slave job before, many, many moons ago, long time ago, was I was a chef. And being gone during the whole week of Thanksgiving, I promised my family, as soon as I get back, I'll make Thanksgiving dinner for everybody. They didn't get a Thanksgiving dinner with me gone because nobody wants to cook it. So I told them, look, I'll cook it Sunday. We'll make a nice big meal. I made a huge Thanksgiving dinner in 2.5 hours yesterday. That's all the time I had in between my clearings was 2.5 hours. And I used it to make Thanksgiving dinner, and I had my family over, and it was a wonderful thing. But I did something stupid while I was prepping my food. So as a chef, every time I sit down to do any form of cooking, I sharpen my knives. That's what we do. We just sharpen knives. We got to work with sharp knives, especially if you're cutting a turkey and all that other stuff, right? You need everything sharp. So I sharpened my favorite knife. It's a very, very good knife. Very, very sharp knife. And I had a giant carrot that I was trying to cut. This thing was like this big, okay? Very, very thick carrot. It's a huge carrot, okay? So I'm trying to cut it, and it rolled on me as I was cutting it. And somehow my knife that was so sharp, like literally I could shave a hair, so to speak, as they say, somehow when my knife came slamming down on my 3 fingers, it did not cut me. It rolled the carrot. And as it rolled, it somehow slipped and my knife literally hit my 3 fingers like this. And it hit it with so much force, I should have lost my 3 tips of my fingers yesterday. And as it happened, like, first of all, when it slammed out of my fingers, I was like, holy shit. My heart started pounding out of my chest. Like, first of all, I recognized immediately that that was a close call. That was so lucky. Holy shit. Like, I had to put the knife down. I had to step away. My heart was doing this. I was like, holy shit. Okay. And I had to reground myself, calm myself down. I was like, what just happened? Because I know for a fact that knife is extremely sharp and I don't have a mark on me. I could feel it. Like, I could literally feel the tingling of these tips of these 3 fingers. And I was like, I could feel it. Like, there was tingling like crazy, like tingling. And I was like, what is just happening? So I said something to Fergus, my gatekeeper, and I said, was that you? Like, did you just save my bacon? Like, what just happened? And I heard like, yes, like I heard that in my head, like, yes, we did. So later on that evening, after we had dinner and everything, I sit down to work with Adriana. She goes into a trance. I said something to Zach, and I'm like, Zach, what happened when I was prepping dinner tonight? And he goes, you mean when you almost lost your fingers? Holy shit, you really saw that? They're like, yeah, actually Fergus said something to us. They can see potential futures. They can see potential realities where you basically are, like, there's potential futures that happen all the time, right? So I was like, did you guys see that there was a potential future where I chopped off my finger? And they're like, yeah, we did. And we had to call somebody in to change it. And I said, it was Metatron, wasn't it? And they said, yes. How did you know? And I said, because I thought of him. The minute it happened, I thought of him. Like, the split second, I nearly lost my fingers. And I immediately looked down and I'm like, how is that even possible? Like, I should have lost my finger. And they were like, nope, that was Metatron. And I was like, thank God. Holy shit. I was like, okay, good karma is a thing. Miracles really do happen. That was a fucking miracle. Like, no joke. That was a miracle. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm like, you're not just saving me from beasties, you're saving me from myself. I appreciate that very much right now. And they're like, yeah, you're welcome. You've earned it. And I was like, yeah. Whew, thank God. Like, that could have been a disaster. And it's funny too, because, a couple months ago, I was doing something really stupid again in the kitchen, and I nearly lost the tip of this finger. I accidentally stabbed myself pretty bad in the finger to the point where I nearly passed out. Like, I can handle blood very well, but for some reason, as soon as I looked down at my injury, I nearly fainted. And I actually collapsed. Like, that's how much I nearly lost consciousness for a second. I can handle other people's blood fine. I can handle my own. But when it happened, there was something extra about it. And I said to Adriana about it, I was like, God, it was almost like that time I nearly injured my finger. And she's like, I know what that was. And I said, what? And she goes, you chopped your own finger off in a past life. And I was like, why? I was like, as soon as I asked why, I saw myself do it. As soon as I said, why would I do that? I saw myself doing it. I knew immediately what lifetime it was. I knew immediately what the cause was. And I knew that I did it myself. I remember seeing it. That's how much when I'm telling you, my downloads have been intense the last week. I am not kidding. Like, no joke. When I saw that, I was like, holy shit. It was the lifetime where I was a Chinese assassin. I told you, I've been naughty. I've had many lifetimes where I was naughty. I've had a lot of karma to repay. So I was a Chinese assassin. I wore very fancy silk embroidered clothing. That was probably my best dressed lifetime, just saying. And in that lifetime, I was very formidable. We'll put it that way. I was a very well-known, very impressive assassin in that lifetime. And in that life, I got dishonor. It was dishonor. I got in big trouble for something that I don't remember. So I killed somebody I wasn't supposed to. I think it was in self-defense. But I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive it was in self-defense, which is why they didn't punish me, sentence me to death. But it was a major dishonor that I killed somebody I wasn't supposed to kill. So they told me I had to do something to make amends for that, and I chopped off my own finger. I remember doing it. Now that I've downloaded that memory, be mindful when you're visiting past life versions of you, you can see some pretty traumatic shit. Yeah, I was repaying karma and all kinds of stuff. So that's why it can be when you've done something to yourself or had something experienced that happened in a past life, it's very easy to tap into that. And that's what happened. I tapped into that alternate reality where I chopped off my own finger, and I did. I almost chopped off my own finger. It took a year for me to be able to regain feeling. Like I could feel 90% of it now, but it was numb. This whole finger was numb for a year. It took a whole year for it to heal what I did to it. So that's why I say, like, holy shit, I got lucky again last night. So I asked the guides, I was like, was that the suit? And they said it was partially the suit that protected you, but it was more Metatron. He swapped timelines with you. He basically chose a different time. He's like, nope, you're not going into that timeline. You're staying in this other particular timeline. So they basically like rerouted me down a different path. And I'm telling you, I can still feel the tingling today. These 3 fingers still are tingling today. Like I'm still kind of branching away from that other timeline, I guess. How I can see it in my head. Like as it moves further away from that alternate timeline where I chopped off my own fingers, I can actually feel it starting to get less numb and tingly. This is the kind of shit you deal with when you're dealing with the multi-dimensional stuff. See, Ariana, I agree with that completely. Ariana says being an assassin is only badass if you're taking out bad people. I agree. Yes. So who knows what we were doing in past lives? Lots of us were naughty in past lives. Don't go thinking that you were innocent. We call them darkness lives. Like when we have like our shadow lifetime. You can call it shadow life. Just for the record, though, a shadow life could cost you 1,000 lifetimes in trying to make up for it. One shadow life, like if you were some Dracula-like mofo and you're going around killing people and putting their heads on spikes, good luck paying that off. You're going to have a lot of lifetimes where you're going to have to pay that off. Do you know who has the most karmic shit, too, from past lives? You know, I found people with hundreds of karmic contracts, literally hundreds of karmic contracts. Do you know who gets the most contracts? I wonder if anybody can guess. What profession? Can you guess what profession would lead you to have the most karmic contracts out of everybody else? I could tell. As soon as I look in your past life resonances, I can tell how many karmic contracts. I can tell if you were one of these. Bingo, Ariana. Yes. Judges. Judges. Yep. Bingo. You guys listen so well. I'm impressed. Not even people like not even mass. I mean, yeah, there's going to be mass murderers out there. We found one person that was responsible for the slaughter of the Cathars. There was one clergy person that was responsible for millions of deaths. So yes, the clergy absolutely is one of those. But even so, I mean, even more than the clergy, judges. I found a judge with over 200 karmic contracts. Can you imagine? You have a tough life when you have 2 or 3 karmic contracts. If you have over a couple hundred of those, holy shit. Judges end up with so much karma, you won't even fathom how much karma a lot of them have. Because you're judging other people. What did the Bible say about judging others? Only God can judge, right? And they're out there judging everybody. Police officers, you know what's interesting? You do end up shirking some of your karma when you're following orders. Isn't that ironic? You know, this is why people who are genocidal madmen, like, I don't know, Hitler is a good example of this, I guess. You know, if you're responsible for millions of deaths, right? People believe that. Well, you told people what to do, right? And this is part of the reason why the clergy doesn't have as much as a judge does. You know why? Can you guess why the clergy doesn't have as much karma? Because they're telling people what to do. Yeah, but they're not doing it. You give the soldiers the karma. If you're out there following orders and you're doing what you're being told to do, then there is an air of, well, I'm being obedient. But there is also an air of you could have told them no. You could have said no and stood down, and you didn't. So they actually pass on some of the karma to their own soldiers because their soldiers are following orders. So in a way, you could have ignored them. You could have said no. And that is actually reflected in the karmic contracts. So yeah, somebody can get a lot of karma for telling soldiers what to do, but if you're going to obey that and you're going to do it, then they're pushing some of that karma on you. So you're sharing the karma with the person who told you what to do. And you know what's interesting? I told you guys at the beginning of this conversation about that soldier that we helped, that I was so excited about how wonderful his stuff has gone. Do you know we found 9 dark contracts on that gentleman? 9. Several of them were from past lives. Several of the dark contracts were made in the dream state. One of them was made in the waking state. Can you guess how a soldier would make a dark contract in the waking state? Summer says you joined the military. Bingo. Yes. When you sign up to the military, you sign a dark contract. Yes, you sign an agreement. Every time you sign on that recruiter sheet, that's what happens. You end up signing a dark contract. You signed your life and your free will away. This excites me because honestly, as a veteran, I may not be a veteran of this military in this lifetime, but I am absolutely a veteran, and I have been through so many wars, so many battles. In fact, you know what's interesting? On the 13th of this month, I don't know if anybody is able, but we are going to be having an event in Gettysburg. So if any of you are close to Gettysburg, I live 20 minutes from Gettysburg. So if you guys are interested in coming and hanging out with us in person, we will be at an event in Gettysburg, and we will be crossing over as many soldiers as we can that are stuck in the layers around Gettysburg. So helping the soldiers is a huge passion for me right now because they have the most stuff going on. And if you think of how many people are taking their own lives right now, how many soldiers are doing self-harm, and it's not even them. It's not even them that are dealing with it. It's the entities that are dealing with it. I didn't sign, I was forced, somebody just said. Well, this is the thing. Entities don't care about free will. Entities don't give a rat's ass about free will. The only ones who care about free will are the benevolent ones. Wonderful. If you guys are close to Gettysburg, come and hang out with us. We'll be at the event. There is an actual, like a holistic fair event in Gettysburg. So we are half going to talk about SRT. In fact, I'll be doing a speech on psychic protection and spiritual hygiene at the event. You can come in and get clearings. And we will also be crossing over as many soldiers as we can. There's if you get, just to put it into perspective, there were over 25,000 people that died in 24 hours, about 24 to 48 hours in Gettysburg. We have our work cut out for us when it comes to crossing over lost souls because many of them are still stuck. So helping soldiers right now is like a huge passion for me. I'm really excited about it. I would love to be able to help more of them, especially those that are dealing with psychosis, entity-induced psychosis, people who are dealing with traumatic nightmares, because these entities will cycle. They will put trauma in your head and put it on replay over and over and over again until the soldiers are feeling like the only option they have is to check out, so to speak, because they just can't deal with that. They can't deal with the replaying of the trauma over and over again. Who is replaying that trauma? Not them. That is not the subconscious. That is not the higher self. The higher self is not trying to torture you with your own trauma. That is the entities. So if you have anything like that happening, just be aware that that is not you. Okay? That is the dark entities trying to exploit your trauma and use it against you. So just be very, very mindful that, you know, your intrusive thoughts are a heads up. They're a warning. You know, that they're trying to kind of use that trauma to get to you. And they will use that trauma to the point where you take your own life. And that is the ultimate goal. That is what they want. And then we wonder why so many soldiers take their own lives. We wonder why so many of them are reeling from the trauma. And then they don't even get respite in death because we go and check them and they're not crossed over. They're not with their loved ones. They're in a dark void with an asshole entity, the same one that was harassing them. So not even in death do they get respite. And to be honest, that fucking pisses me off. Sorry for all the F-bombs today. But it does. It pisses me off. And we're not putting up with this shit anymore. We're not. Not on our watch, as we say. Not on our fucking watch. So if you guys know of any soldiers that are dealing with these horrific nightmares or dealing with psychic attacks, please reach out to us. Send them my way. I honestly, most of my pro bonos, they are, I've got a lot of students coming in. I'm going to be going through my pro bonos like crazy. So yes, please be aware that if you're on my list, we will get to you soon. Meg says, are you familiar with the book Journey of Souls? Yes, Michael Newton is a phenomenal author. If you have never read a Michael Newton book, I highly recommend it. What was the other one? There's Journey of Souls and then something else. Destiny of Souls, I think it was. They're both amazing. Dolores Cannon and Michael Newton are the two best people. If you want to learn about reincarnation and higher consciousness, they're amazing. They're not 100% accurate all the time. Nobody ever is. Even I'm not 100% accurate all the time. How many times have I had to be like, sorry, guys, I found out some shit and now I found out I was wrong. So here's the new information that I have become aware of. That's how you have to be. New information comes forward all the time. So just be aware, take what you can and leave the rest. Take what resonates and leave the rest. Love you guys so much. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everyone.